This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Black Friday week deals now.
In couples therapy, one of the things, if we're trying to enhance a couple's sex life, we say, go back to when you were dating and think about all of the planning and the anticipation and this and that. Put that back into your marriage. Really? We're supposed to? Yeah, because that was what got us excited as young people, is sort of we had to figure out when we were going to have sex. All of that anticipation is really important for connection, and that's gone. Porn takes all of that away.
Welcome to Season 7 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we'll talk about managing anxiety and all the other emotions too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author. I've been a therapist for 35 years. Parenting can be a Flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll tell you what to do and what to say. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Lynn.
So we are back with the amazing Cindy Pierce. This is part 2. We wanted to do 2 episodes. If you haven't listened to the first one, go back and listen to that. And today we're going to talk about a difficult subject, but something that I think all 3 of us think is so important. And that is the influence of pornography on young people and their sexuality. And this is an area in which Cindy goes there. As you're listening to this, if you've got your 8-year-old in the back of the car, we're going to go there. We're going to talk about porn and its influence, and Cindy's going to probably make us uncomfortable and might even shock us in a way that I think is ultimately going to be really helpful.
I'm just going to remind the listeners of Cindy's 2 books that are wonderful references. The first is Sexploitation, Helping Kids Develop Healthy Sexuality in a Porn-Driven World, and Sex, College, and Social Media, A Common Sense Guide to Navigating the Hookup Culture. So she has taken a deep dive in this, and she is talking to students all the time around the country. You can tell us a little bit about that.
So I didn't have any intention of doing this work, but what I heard, how porn was influencing people's sex lives negatively, that they readily admitted. Particularly young men are confused. They say, we're really confused. And my first talk I gave to a group of whole fraternity, and the intention, I'd come in, give a talk for an hour, and then take questions. Well, the question lasted 2 hours. And a lot of questions about erectile dysfunction, about penis size. And this was many, many years ago. And the questions went on and on. How do orgasms work? I can't ask a woman about that because I'm supposed to know, which is complicated terrain. You cannot know. I know when I start my conversations with parents and kids, college students, I say, masturbation is healthy and normal for all genders. I know young people want to be good at sex and they don't want to admit what they don't know. So they are seeking resources privately. And when you look something up online, no matter how old you are, the porn industry has those searches. They're ready to grab your attention. And people want social credibility, sexual relevance. And once you see porn, it's really hard to stop looking. And if you see that at a young age, they will keep going back to it. And I know one parent, she said, I looked on our family computer, this was years ago, and she saw the history. Her 9-year-old had not come to speak to her, but had looked up. On the first day, it was boobies, not tits, not breasts, not boobs. That's how you know that kid is a wee little lad. And then the next day, it got to intercourse. And then it got to a really aggressive, violent sexuality, and then threesomes. And it just over the course of a week, each day that kid had been not old enough to know at that time. Now 9-year-olds would know how to erase their history. But this was a long time ago. And that's very common. And so she wouldn't have known about it. Her child didn't come and say, I'm really confused. I've seen something. That's why we really got to address internet porn. When I started this work, I hung out with boys my whole childhood, my whole life. I thought, boys masturbate early. They look at porn. They look at magazines. I would cling to a magazine like a life raft compared to what kids are looking at. I mean, it is so disturbing and so different. They can access it 24/7. You had to make an effort to get to the clubhouse or the secret stash, and you had to risk shame and being caught by a parent or a sister or someone. And the effort and the risk for shame, now kids are getting phones way too early, and they can look at elementary schools are talking about how kids are looking at internet porn on the computers and on devices.
On the school bus.
Yes, on the school, but too easy to access.
You bring up that point. One of the things that we've had talks with our own kids about too is there's the intersection of porn with internet safety. So back in the 70s or 80s, you could easily look at that magazine or see a little thing on Cinemax at night or whatever that was, and maybe nobody would know. But browsing history is going to come back and attach to an identity as well. You don't always get to do that without consequences of people knowing that you did it.
Kids will say they're rarely found out, but that history and then the algorithms, what they're serving you.
Exactly.
That's the tricky part, is that it just increases. And I say masturbation is healthy and normal for all genders, but what is fueling it has changed dramatically. Young people are looking at getting ideas about sex because they want to learn. This is the primary sexuality educator right now. Parents should be, but porn is getting to the kids before they're hearing about healthy relationships and healthy sexuality. And so it's very confusing for kids to get these messages so early. Younger and younger ages, a common age of first exposure for boys in the US is 9 years old. What I'm concerned about is the skewed expectations about how bodies look and how they respond. Women in porn are often mistreated. They're physically harmed. There's sexual violence, physical violence, but yet she's having orgasms. So the combination of pain and pleasure is a common theme, particularly for the women in porn. And that is a conscious, it's dehumanizing a lot of the content of porn for people of color, for people of different orientations and gender identities, and women. And predominantly what we see, the most viewed, the most clicked on porn obviously becomes the most viewed because of the algorithms. Women are treated poorly. When you treat someone like disrespectfully, the consumer of that porn doesn't feel empathy for that person. And so they can separate and then find that arousing. Interesting, the porn industry calls it choking. It's actually strangulation. Choking is when food gets caught in your throat. Strangulation is cutting off the air supply with a hand or a rope or some kind of thing. And so mainstream porn normalizes sexual violence, coercion, the physical, the degradation, the dehumanization, the objectification, and the cruelty made to look pleasurable. And people say, yes, but there's all this respectful porn. There's feminist porn. There's porn that's made by people who are really conscious about these things. That is true. That porn is out there. It's now becoming more available. Here's the problem. Most of it's behind a paywall. There's something called escalation. So someone who is masturbating, looking at porn, let's say it's respectful, feminist porn, there's consent, use of barrier methods. But what the problem is, after a while, that doesn't get them off.
Like anything that you need more of the stimulus in order to get the response. That's how it works.
Well, and not only that, none of our kids are like, I would really like to find the good porn, Mom. Can you tell me how to find the good porn behind the paywall? So even though that porn, if that exists, that's not really relevant to the conversation of the way porn is so readily available via phone and devices to our kids, where they don't have the education and awareness of how to put this into context.
Yes, exactly. And that's how people justify my kids looking at good porn. Well, very soon they're not going to be.
Really?
Yeah. I hear it. There are parents, you're not even, what you just said, finding the good porn, Mom. They can't see what people are looking at, but they tell themselves, I told them about that there's porn that's more respectful. But what they're not taking into account is really, in a very short amount of time, that will not be stimulating. The stakes need to be higher. Porn is different than a drug. With a drug, you actually need more of the drug. With porn, you need variety. And that's the difference between porn and drugs and alcohol, is that to get off, you need variety. So the stakes get higher, the content changes. There are parents who are like, oh, but there's good porn out there. And I've talked to my kid about it. No.
We have done conversations and it's sort of like the parent that says, well, we're going to drink at home because that'll help our child learn how to drink. So it's the same sort of concept.
Exactly. Yes.
Tell me what you think about this, is that we've done so much talking to our girls about consent and the importance of consent. And we've done a lot of talking to our boys about getting consent. Porn isn't really into consent. What a mixed message we're saying to these girls and to these boys. This is how you communicate about it. This is what you should say, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And the porn industry isn't really interested in promoting the idea of consent.
Right. Actually, very much the opposite, dominating, rough. So even young people who can recite the definition of consent, understand that, yes means yes and no means no. They get it in theory. But when they've got this overwhelming influence of porn that they in their head, in their imagination, when they get to the context, when they're under the influence possibly of alcohol or drugs, under the influence of peers expecting them to hook up with that person, therefore likely to push boundaries, and also under the influence of optimistic arousal, regardless of what they understand in a sober state of clarity, they cannot help themselves and they feel like I have to push this. And so the porn scripts really dominate regardless of what their education is. But we need to be speaking to all genders about consent, starting when they're young in friendships, verbally, physically, not sexually, because when we talk about consent when they're young, when they're little kids, coercion, kids who say, well, do you want to play this? No, I'm already doing this. And the kid who keeps pushing and is allowed to keep pushing, that tends to become a pattern. Over time, if coercion works for you, coercing your parents, coercing a friend, that could translate right into your relationships, your sexual relationships. I do want to just put in here, some people say, you're a woman, you don't understand talking about porn. I'm hearing from young men and boys who are really concerned about how internet porn is interfering with their sexual health, with their relationships. They come to me. I don't seek their thoughts. They hear me speak. They're like, that old lady, she seems to know a lot about what we're doing online. I'm going to ask her these questions. And I learn the most from the questions young people ask me. And the erectile dysfunction among high school and college boys is a huge issue.
We're going to take a break. And let's hear about some of these questions. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. Lynn, I know you're not a fan of the holiday season.
I know. I try.
It is a very busy time, and we're always rushing around trying to get additional tasks done. So I get that. But you know what we both love?
Liquid IV.
We do. Whether you forget to take a sip of water during the office holiday party, or you start feeling parched after a long day of travel or hosting,
or shopping,
keep Liquid IV on hand to stay hydrated through the holidays.
I take it to work out, but I'm just drinking it all day long. I have said this before, everybody. I don't really like to drink water. I love drinking Liquid IV. I am getting so much more hydration because it's sitting in my refrigerator waiting for me.
I like the sugar-free lemon lime Liquid IV. I also love the peach sugar-free.
It does taste fabulous. 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone.
It's powered by LIV Hydroscience, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. And it's always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free.
Stay hydrated through the holidays with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code FLUSTER at checkout.
That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code FLUSTER at liquidiv.com.
All right, everybody, I want you to go to your bathroom and I want you to count how many skincare products you have in there. And I had 17. What if I said you just need 5? With JLo Beauty, that's all you will need for radiant, glowing skin. You get that JLo glow with JLo's Beauty Deluxe Kit. It's the one and done skincare solution clinically proven to boost your skin's radiance and luminosity for an immediate and lasting glow. Featuring 5 multitasking formulas designed to cleanse, refresh, and prep your skin to take on the day. It improves the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, and it protects against UVAs and UVBs. It's going to address the fine lines around my eyes too, but man, those dark circles, when I see that, I want a product that works. So you get more glow for less with your skincare routine. You can try it for 60 days. And if you're not completely satisfied, just return the bottles and you'll get your money back. Get the only skincare routine you'll ever need. Head to jlobeauty.com/Flusterclux to receive 20% off plus 3 free gifts, including 2 quality face masks and 1 hydrating basil bomb. Head to jlobeauty.com/Flusterclux, 20% off and 3 free gifts. A $175 value. jlobeauty.com/Flusterclux.
Maybe gift giving isn't your love language. You overthink it and you wind up with something disappointing or worse, nothing at all. And maybe you're just tired of wasting money on useless clutter that no one really needs. Okay, I've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone. Watch them appear in seconds. It's so easy to use. Setup takes about 60 seconds. And you can invite friends and family to share photos via the free Skylight mobile app. Or you just email it straight to the frame with its unique address. It is the fastest, easiest way to keep loved ones in the loop. And maybe for those of you who don't like sharing photos of your kids on social media, this is a nice private way to keep families connected of all those special moments that you capture with your camera. We're confident that you'll love Skylight. They offer a free 120-day return. It's a top-rated brand with over 1 million happy customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and it's available in over 30 countries. And now, as a special limited-time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/Flusterclux. That's skylightframe.com/Flusterclux. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/Flusterclux.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, so erectile dysfunction, a lot of concern about that. Young men have said to me, and boys, they say, look, I have a partner who is very attractive. I'm sexually attractive to her. This is a heterosexual relationship. It takes me an hour to get off. But with porn, it takes me 1 minute. That is a common issue. And erectile dysfunction, getting an erection and being able to ejaculate. Both of those things are difficult. And I think before internet porn was so available, premature ejaculation was much more common. And it's still common because, there's a lot of reasons for that. But it's more I'm hearing about erectile dysfunction. And some guys have said, and I've heard this way too many times, they say, look, it's complicated having a partner or hooking up with someone or even having a partner. They're irritated that you have to navigate things they don't know and feeling awkward. They're like, it's much easier to just look at porn. And of course, there's the avoidance of rejection. There's avoidance of shame. There's no emotional commitment. There's no risk. They can avoid all the things that make them feel badly.
We talked about this at the beginning of the first episode. Wherever you are as a parent on this, if you're more liberal or more conservative about it, that's fine. But the thing is, porn is out there, whether or not you have a relationship or judgment about it, and it is affecting our young people's healthy sex lives as they are even adults, even in marriages. If their sexuality is sort of tainted in this age where they didn't know anything, they didn't know any better what they were getting into, it starts this chemical dopamine pattern of their own sexuality that then has a dramatic influence on how they interact with someone in real life situations. That's tragic.
Right. When you're talking about this, Cindy, what I hear, what goes into my head, because I work with so many socially anxious young people, is that they lose the ability to practice having relationships because they don't need to sound like an old lady, but this is a true term, courting, the whole process of getting to know somebody, of step by step, having conversations, increasing your connection, increasing your intimacy, how you take things from one step to the next is all the process of creating connection. And when you help anxious kids skip step 1 through 12 and they can go right to step 13, they're not developing the ability to connect with other human beings. That leads to isolation. And we know that isolation is a huge risk factor for developing depression. It's all connected. And then if I could just say this one thing too, when kids are isolated, depressed, and put on SSRIs, the sexual dysfunction from those medications is just making the problem even worse, because now you've got 18-year-old socially anxious boys who are put on an SSRI, who then can't get an erection, can't have an orgasm, and the whole thing just continues to spiral. It's just not good. It's just not good.
If parents aren't aware of this, the rate of sexual activity among high schoolers and college students, do you all have the data? But it's plummeted. It's plummeted compared to past times, correct?
Okay, so people always say to me, Cindy, you're all about kids delaying and taking their time. Well, the statistics show that's already happening. Isn't that fantastic? I say, no. The fear of connecting with another human being, delaying is more about anxiety about connecting, not feeling adequate. You've got social media, you've got comparison. How do I keep up? And then you see porn and you see how people present things on social media. And it looks like everyone's having this fantastic sex or this extreme sex. And that's intimidating. So you delay. Or you've got a relationship with internet porn that is safe and cozy, and it reinforces. You're associating like, this is my cozy way of getting off or masturbating. It's easier than engaging in the world. So those statistics actually make me nervous. And courting, hand touching, knees brushing up against each other, snuggling,
making out, kissing.
Yes, it's missing.
The normal rate of sexual curiosity has been hijacked from porn because typically people would be curious and more motivated to take those social risks so that they could kiss somebody in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. Now they don't even do it. They don't do it. So yes, I love what you just said is that parents are misinterpreting the data of delayed sexual action, our technology robbing something of our kids.
Yeah. The process of getting to know somebody, of anticipating what's going to happen. I mean, we're 3 old people. We didn't have this access to porn. There was all of the planning. I mean, one of the things when you talk about in couples therapy, one of the things, if we're trying to enhance a couple's sex life, we say, go back to when you were dating and think about all of the planning and the anticipation and this and that. Put that back into your marriage. And people are like, really? We're supposed to? Yeah, because that was what got us excited as young people, is sort of we had to figure out when we were going to have sex. All of that anticipation is really important for connection. And that's gone. Porn takes all of that away.
So how do we frame this with our kids for them to really understand the impact when that message is uphill?
So one thing I would not do, which parents leave my talk, they go home and they say, I ask my child, do you watch porn? And they answer in 2 ways. Of course not, because they can see the alarm. Or, of course I do, because everyone does. Get with it, old boomer. Like that is the way it goes. And so I wouldn't even ask that question. I wouldn't have catastrophic tone and vibe because you will not be the trusted adult. I would say this, look, we haven't talked about this, and maybe you've heard me talk about sex and it's awkward. This is like super awkward. But here's the thing. I obviously can't control what you look at online. You have your own phone. You're 15, 16, 17. I'd be more aggressive. I would be much more engaged at 12, 13, 14. But once they're really on their own. So look, you're on your own, but I want to tell you some things. And I would take what you hear me talking about and I would say all of it in a very calm way. And I have a long list of resources and TED Talks, great resources, the Reward Foundation, Gabe Dean, the Reboot Nation, Fight the New Drug. These are all different people with different values who are coming together. I mean, the number of resources on this. I have this fleet of amazing humans across the planet who are on this journey of trying to educate young people and parents about porn. But there's a lot of resistance from parents because it's too scary. And they rely on, I've talked to my kids about their values, out of sight, out of mind. They don't say it, but it's really like, I'm sure it's all good. And we know it's not. Anxious generation into porn. I am such a Jonathan Haidt fan. I'm so glad you speak of him regularly. But this is a great reason to delay giving a phone, not in middle school. They're not developmentally ready. To delay their exposure is really important.
If you were going to have this conversation, you've got a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, and you want to broach this topic. So you say to them, okay, so I've been talking to you about sex. I want to talk to you about porn. This is going to be super hard and super awkward. So for the parents that are listening that are now like, oh my God, she said in our last episode that I have to say the word vagina, and now I have to talk about porn. For parents that are feeling overwhelmed right now, what are the 3 most important messages that you would want a teenager to get from a parent about porn?
3 things I would want a teenager to know about internet porn. Number 1, it will skew expectations about how sex should be, how bodies respond, how bodies look. Kids of all genders have genital image issues because there's huge penises in porn. They feel inadequate. And vulvas are altered, waxed from anus to navel, surgically altered, often dyed a color to look very bright red, very confusing. So these things impact kids. Also, the biggest thing is porn hijacks your reward system and will make you nervous about connecting with a partner because of these skewed expectations. You will get very used to it and it's easy and you don't have to put yourself out there and it becomes a habit. I don't talk a lot about addiction because every young person I know is like, I stopped for 10 days and I'm good. I think I'm not addicted. I just talk about the habit. It's hard to break out and connect with another human, and the lack of consent in the most available porn and the sexual violence and the physical violence are really problematic for you understanding about healthy connections with a partner.
Or being a good partner.
Or being a good partner and providing and asking and getting consent. And something the kink community and BDSM community talks about is pre-care and aftercare. Pre-care meaning checking in. What is pleasurable to you? I do not tell kids to say, what are you into? That is such a loaded question. Some people are like, I'm into kissing. I've never kissed. It's like, don't ask those questions. Like, where are your boundaries? Like, let's just talk about that. How are you comfortable? And aftercare in hookup culture, this is alarming to people. But it's like, I say to people, if you're not comfortable talking about consent out loud, talking about safer sex with barrier methods, dental dams, condoms, or the finer liner, Get Louie, this awesome new product that's going to come out, which is for all genders, for go in and over, and talking about contraception if it's a heterosexual encounter, and talking about pleasure. If talking about those things with a partner, and this is what parents can say to their kids, if you can't talk about those 4 things with a partner, then you should not be naked or partially naked with a partner. That should be a clear filter that if that's too awkward, you shouldn't be doing this. And also, it requires communication. Enjoyable sex, healthy sex requires communication, a balance of interest. I love this from Shafia Zaloom. She says, when 2 people have a sexual encounter, regardless of gender or orientation, they should both leave that experience with their dignity. That is an awesome filter for young people to hear. But this is not what is shown in porn. None of these things.
Right. Not even close.
Not even close. Yes.
When I've had very minor league conversations with my kids, and this is really motivating me to take it a step further, we always distinguish between sexual curiosity and porn, because sexual curiosity is normal and part of sexual development that is essential. So it's great to be curious. That's normal. So we always validate that. But with porn, we often talk about it in the concept of diet or consumption of something that's very toxic and harmful.
And years ago, before this research was out there, I discovered in the trenches of fraternity conversations, I had 2 young men. I gave my presentation. 6 months later, I was writing a book. I went back, and this is 2006, went back and interviewed these young men. And two guys came up to me and one of them said, I did your porn detox. And I was like, what? Apparently I said, you guys, sounds like porn's an issue. You should take like a month off porn. Well, this kid said, I've been off porn for 6 months. I no longer have erectile dysfunction. Sex with my partner is amazing. I am less depressed and anxious. I have a lot more time in the day and I just feel so much better. My life is enhanced without porn. The other kid said, I did everything he did for 2 months and I felt great, had all those same feelings. But I thought I could start a reduced diet of porn, just a wee bit. And he said everything flooded back and it was really hard to stop. And here's the thing about the brain. For a developing brain, it takes 4 or 5 months away from porn because of how quickly young brains become addicted to anything. 4 or 5 months completely away from porn to get back to your own images, your own interests, and get those thoughts out of there. Now, what young people say is, look, it's not discipline to not look at porn. You have to engage all your friends. Don't send me this. Don't send me that link. Please minimize the talk about it. And they describe it not as discipline, but as vigilance. It requires vigilance because you're on your own. You're breaking code. It's normalized. You get a lot of grief from your peers. And some are super supportive and some get inspired and do it too. But for an adult brain over 26 years old or so, it only takes 1 or 2 months away from porn to get away from it. That is something no one's really talking to young people about. We talk to them about addiction to alcohol and drugs.
What is the best motivation for them to do that? How would you frame the motivation?
Healthy ideas about their own body, their genital image, their healthier relationships with a partner, better connection, and just more time in your day, less anxious, feeling less inadequate. Genital image, the average size penis in porn is 8 inches. I once said to a group of sophomores of all genders, I said, the average size penis for a fully erect adult male is 5.5 inches. I had seen that in many places. And we know there's research, all kinds of research. Well, this kid in the back raises his hand reluctantly. And he says, excuse me, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I saw a study last night that said the actual size of a fully erect penis is 5.14 inches. Now, every guy in the room is like, do we listen to the lady who knows what we're masturbating to and knows a lot, or do we listen to our friend? And I say, you listen to your friend who's looking up penis size studies on Monday nights. Let's go with him. So I said, hey, fella. And I learn from young people all the time. I'm shameless. And I said, do you have your computer with you? He said, yes. He gets it out. His eyes are wide. His 2 friends, their heads are right next to his 3 kids' eyes are wide. And he's like, dun, 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 looking up. And he yells, 5.14. And the place erupts. Every boy is like, yeah. And it's not just because they're sophomores in high school. College men, I can be in a fraternity. Those men will leap up, high five each other, yell, I am normal. They're so happy. And I feel like if I could go in and just talk to them about that, and healthy masturbation, they're really nervous about masturbation and because they're nervous about how porn's impacting, that alone can change a young person's life.
Let's talk about something that I feel like often gets overshadowed, the impact of porn and young girls.
Okay. Young girls and young women say they get feedback from their partners that their vulvas are too flappy, they have hair, they don't look right, they're not the right color. So you may be struggling with a little body image issues. Now you got the genital image issues. So they get feedback. They also complain. I go to groups of women and they're like, why do guys do that jackhammer thing where they just pound and thrust so quickly and it hurts? And my first thing is, first of all, you need to speak up. And they say, I don't want to hurt his feelings because then, it used to be being prude was you didn't want to have sex. Now prude is you don't want to have rough, adventurous sex. Like that's a sad times. So a lot of young women and girls say they feel like they're supposed to have rough sex. If they don't want to have anal sex, then they're considered prude. And they're looking for social relevance, so they feel like they have to be tied up, be strangled. And I've talked to young men who say, I don't want to strangle or slap a woman, but when she asks me to, I feel like that's what she wants. But a lot of young women say, I feel like I have to be into that. Like I have to be adventurous and And I say, okay, whatever you want to do on the spectrum of rough sex or anything from kissing or holding hands all the way to this degree, are you educated? Have you joined the kink community? And the kink community and the BDS community is concerned that people should be educated so they understand consent, safe words, safe gestures, real communication. And when I talk to young women who say, yeah, don't slut shame me. I own my sexuality. I can be, they say choked. I like that. And I can send pictures. I say, okay, you feel sexually empowered. Tell me what that looks like. Almost always it means they're not having orgasms. They would not speak up about orgasms because they don't want to hurt their partner's feelings, but they seem sexually adventurous. People think they're totally comfortable and experience. And most people are trying to get experience. Unfulfilling sex, practicing unfulfilling sex over and over and over becomes the practice. So I want people to be educated, to understand their pleasure zones, to be able to communicate them. But porn is not helping them. It's putting a lot of pressure on people what they should be doing to enjoy sex.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
With the AUDIT, you're listening to an ad for PC Game Pass. Want new games on day one like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? How about living out your Sims life with EA Play? We're talking high-quality PC games all for one low monthly price. We got you. Learn more at xbox.com/PC Game Pass or click the banner. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle available December 9th, 2024. Game catalog varies by region and over time. Okay, that's the ad. You can go back to doing whatever you were doing now.
How about listening to the sounds of Istanbul? Beautiful, isn't it? But you can't discover the coolest city in the world just by listening. Check istanbul.goturkiye.com now and plan your Istanbul trip today.
Time to move? Skip the hassles of selling during the holiday season and sell your home directly to Opendoor. Request an all-cash offer in minutes, close, and get paid in days. You can even pick your close date so you can move after New Year's. Start your move at opendoor.com or download the Opendoor app. Opendoor is represented by Opendoor Brokerage Inc., license 02061130 in California, and Opendoor Brokerage LLC in its other markets. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, so now back to the show.
This could have been a lot for a lot of parents to think about. So as Lynn would say, when we're overwhelmed, we have to break this up into parts. The point that I'm really taking away from what you're saying is this is not how we grew up. We grew up with different sexual
Information, imagery,
and experiences and access. Things are very different now. We can't deny that the current internet porn culture is having a dramatic impact on our young people in the same way it is in our mental health of our young people too.
They're tied together. The more that I listen to Cindy talk, the more I'm like, yeah, they're all tied together because it is so important for your connection, for your joy, for your life to have healthy sexual relationships and connections to other people. And we could be talking about social anxiety. We could be talking about avoidance. We could be talking about all the things that I talk about and connect them very directly to how porn is isolating young people in a way that's interfering with their connection. And connection is what sustains us. We are social creatures. We want to feel loved. We want to feel cared about. We want to feel accepted. And this is getting in the way. I really cannot separate out what I'm talking about with anxiety and depression and what, Cindy, you're talking about with this exposure to porn. The two of them are absolutely connected.
I feel like my goal when I go speak to any group is I want to take one weight off your shoulder, that you're actually normal, you're okay, trust your gut, you know what's working for you. And I can see the relief in Even some who come in, their arms crossed, they got all this swagger, they've been required to come in there with their team or their school or their fraternity or their organization. And they start like this and they start hearing it, then their eyes get wide. By the end, they're sitting forward in their chair and then they're asking a question. And what you're talking about is when you feel sexually inadequate, that fuels your anxiety. And there's so much out there that is making people of all genders feel sexually inadequate and not sexually relevant. And it seems like all of this is wonderful. Often people say, I think everyone else has got this figured out and I don't. And how that weighs on a young person is so problematic and impacts their mental well-being. And I think you nailed it on that. That is the biggest piece, really. That's why we're here. Yes.
Yeah, that's why we're here. I have learned so much from listening to you. I think you are a wealth of information. You are an amazing communicator. I just imagine you, Cindy, standing in front of a fraternity and giving these young men information that will change the way that they interact with other human beings. I mean, what a gift you have.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, as are you too.
Cindy is a wealth of information. Look at her books, find out what you as parents can do. And as I always say, the earlier the better, but it's never too late. I bet, Cindy, you would agree with that as well. We need to have these conversations with our kids. It's really, there's so much at stake here. There's so much at stake here.
Can I share a parenting hack with you guys that I thought of?
Yeah.
So my kids obviously don't really listen to this show, just like yours don't either, Lynn.
Yeah.
I'm going to say to them, and I wish everyone could have this hack, but it's just me. Hey, we did an episode on porn and I talked about you. Now they're going to listen to the show.
I'm not going to say that to my 26 and 24-year-olds. I'll say it to my mom.
Hey, Mom, we did an episode on porn and I talked about you. It's just such a critical message. And thank you so much for coming and talking with us.
Thank you. This was such an honor. I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.